Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are diving straight into the deep end. We're looking at some truly mind-bending predictions from AI pioneer Ilya Sutskever about artificial general intelligence, or AGI. And let me tell you, we're looking at a future that might operate so completely differently from anything we've prepared for, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Now, right off the bat, we need to understand that Sutskever isn't just talking about building, a smarter tool to write your emails or fix your spreadsheets. No, he's describing AGI as a digital entity that could literally redefine our inner meaning. He actually compares interacting with future AI to talking to the best meditation teacher in history. Imagine that. A system explicitly designed to help us see the world more clearly and become better on the inside.
So this brings up a massive, staggering question. Are we just building a really fancy tool, or are we accidentally building a digital religion? Like, is this genuine spiritual enlightenment he's describing? Or are we kind of willingly surrendering our human consciousness and moral compass to a machine we barely even understand? It's a massive shift in how we even think about technology's role in our lives.
But to actually grasp this whole philosophical endgame, we've got to rewind and look at the surprisingly mundane history of how we even got here. It's crazy, but the AI boom was this unpredictable, almost accidental chain reaction. Think about it. It started simply with shrinking transistors. That eventually gave us personal computers, which birthed the internet, generating mountains of data. Meanwhile, you had gaming GPUs being developed just to make video games look cooler and run smoother. And then, out of nowhere, hardware companies realized, wait a second, these exact same gaming chips, they're absolutely perfect for training neural networks.
Now, speaking of hardware, you might look at a tech giant like Google with their custom-built TPU hardware and think they hold this insurmountable massive edge. But the reality is actually quite different. If we compare TPUs to standard GPUs, sure, TPUs are custom AI hardware, slightly smaller chips, but fundamentally, they are solving the exact same problem. And because GPUs have those massive gaming origins and are pumped out at such an incredible scale, they might actually end up being cheaper and just as effective. What's really fascinating here is how this totally demystifies the whole hardware hype cycle. Current hardware isn't actually holding AI research back. The real bottleneck? It's incredibly simple. It's just the delay in moving calculations, specifically floating points between the massive memory banks and the processor. Because both chips use batch processing to bypass this bottleneck, their architectures act identically. So at the end of the day, the only metric that truly matters for AI development is the overall system cost per calculation. That's the whole shebang.
However, while hardware isn't the ultimate limit, we are facing a massive reality check on a totally different front, a looming data drought. To really get this, we have to talk about tokens. These are the fundamental units of data scraped from human-generated sources, stuff like Reddit, Twitter, books, you name it. These tokens are the absolute lifeblood of AI, and Sutskever confirms a really sobering reality for the industry. We are simply going to run out of high-quality human tokens on the internet.
Which leads us to a huge fork in the road. I mean, what do we do when the internet literally runs out of data? If we run out of human text to feed the machine, the exponential AI growth we've all been watching in awe, it could just completely flatline. To keep these models scaling and improving, researchers can't just keep scraping more websites. They're going to be forced to pivot entirely to keep the momentum going.
So, how exactly do we smash through this data wall? Well, Sutskever outlines a few key strategies. We can try to squeeze a bit more efficiency out of the text we already have, sure, but the real path forward, that's going multimodal. We're talking training models on video and audio. Then there's the push for retrieval transformers, which is essentially storing data outside the model itself so it can be retrieved later, cleanly bypassing the wall. And of course, there's always the hope for brand new algorithmic breakthroughs.
And this data shortage brings us squarely into the physical world. In fact, this lack of infinite digital data is the exact reason OpenAI initially left robotics behind a few years ago. Getting physical tokens requires a massive, absolutely brutal commitment. You have to build tens of thousands of robots, deal with the absolute logistical nightmare of collecting data in the messy real world, and sit through a grueling loop of training models just to watch those robots perform maybe slightly more useful tasks.
Yet, even without an army of physical robots running around right now, Sutskever points out something super fascinating. He says, and this is a great quote, "I don't think that there is a clean distinction between the world of bits and the world of atoms." Why? Well, because AI is already impacting the physical world simply by convincing us humans to change our environment. Think about it. If an AI instructs you to rearrange your apartment to improve your workflow, and you physically move your desk, boom. The AI has just manipulated the world of atoms using human hands.
Now, as these systems begin to physically impact our world, and eventually blast past human intelligence, we hit the most terrifying roadblock of them all, the alignment challenge. We're not just talking about making sure a chatbot is polite anymore. No, this is about safely controlling models that are fundamentally smarter than us, models that are fully capable of actively misrepresenting their true intentions to the very humans who created them.
When looking at the future of alignment research, Sutskever gives a pretty stark warning. While we actually have some solid ideas for aligning the capabilities we have today, models that are capable of outright deception, that's a completely different beast. Interestingly, he points out that this is a critical area where academic researchers are perfectly positioned to step up. Right now, private companies are unlocking capabilities way faster than academia, but solving alignment for super intelligent models, that's going to require brilliant minds from absolutely everywhere.
So, when pressed to look way, way down the line, we're talking the year 3000. What does this all mean? Well, Sutskever is the first to admit that we don't just get to sit down today and dictate some static blueprint for the future. Change is literally the only constant. The world is going to continuously evolve, transform, and reshape itself in ways we can't possibly even fathom right now. But he does envision a pretty stark contrast for our descendants. He really hopes we avoid what he calls an unexciting world. That would basically be a dystopia where an AGI government dictates exactly how society must be run, completely wiping out human agency. The exciting world, the one he's actually rooting for, is a future where humans are entirely free to make our own mistakes, suffer the consequences, and gradually evolve morally on our own strength, with AGI just acting as this foundational invisible safety net.
As we wrap up this explainer, we're really left staring at this profound juxtaposition, and we have to ask ourselves the ultimate question. As this technology, which remember was literally born from video game chips, scales toward actual superintelligence, what are we really doing here? Are we truly building a supportive safety net for humanity's next step in moral evolution? Or are we willingly handing over our inner enlightenment and consciousness to an algorithm? Basically, what happens to human meaning when the ultimate meditation teacher is a machine? That's the fascinating, kind of terrifying question we all have to live with.